Ah, yes, Demon Seed from 1977. A touching tale of a young woman and a computer and the relationship that blossoms between them. Yeah, Demon Seed.
Julie Christie carries the demon seed. Fear for her.
Okay, so yeah, Demon Seed from 1977, starring Julie Christie as Susan. You guys might know from such films as Dr. Zhivago, the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. She was in the Brad Pitt movie Troy, and a bunch of other things. She's been in quite a few films, TV shows. And then you have Fritz Weaver, who plays Alex, known for Creepshow, Marathon Man. He's been in TV shows as Tales from the Dark Side, the Friday the 13th series, and the original Twilight Zone. And then you have Gerrit Graham, who plays Walter in this. He was in Child's Play 2, Phantom of the Paradise, Terror Vision, and a whole slew of other films in that kind of horror sci-fi genre. Yeah, so those are your three main characters in this film. Susan, Alex, and Walter, who appears kind of early on in the film but doesn't really get much of a role until later on. So, yeah, it's good to be back doing a review for Warner Archive. I haven't done a review for them in quite some time, so welcome back to the Warner Archive reviews. Let me go ahead and just read the synopsis for you guys on this. This movie was really freaking weird, so, but we'll get to that. So, Susan Harris is alone in her house when suddenly doors lock, windows slam shut, and the phone stops working. Susan is trapped by an intruder, but this is no ordinary thug. Instead, the intruder is a computer named Proteus, an artificial brain that has learned to reason and to terrorize. In one of her finest, most vulnerable performances, says somebody from the Guide for Film, Danny Perry, whoever that is, Julie Christie plays Susan in this taut techno-thriller based on the Dean Koontz novel, packed with suspense, surprise, and special effects. Demon Seed follows Susan's desperate attempts to outmaneuver and outthink her captor. Then Susan learns what Proteus wants, its own child, conceived in her womb and destined for domination. So that is your synopsis. That sums it up pretty good, so I guess I don't really have to say anything else. So, anyway. So yeah, this film, it really was a lot different than I expected. I honestly, I didn't really know what I expected. I think I watched the trailer for it before I requested this for review a while back. And I didn't really remember too much, and I didn't rewatch the trailer or anything, which is the only special feature on here, by the way, is the theatrical trailer. So I went in this pretty much blindly, but yeah, it starts off a little bit boring. I will say it takes a little bit to get going, so just kind of bear with it. There's a lot of talk about computer technology and everything like that, and like business talk with the scientists and everything wanting to use this Proteus to do certain things and everything. It's trying to find a cure for, like, I think it was leukemia or something like that. And it's just a really smart computer, and it can figure all this shit out. And yeah, but once this movie gets going, it does not stop. It stays pretty much on the same level throughout once it gets going. So yeah, Proteus, the computer that Alex, I believe, isn't it? Yeah, Alex, played by Fred Weaver, develops this machine to, you know, be the smartest thing in existence. And there's a point where they're wanting it to drill for oil at the bottom of the ocean, things like that. And that's kind of when it turns against everybody at that point and starts really thinking for its own. I believe it's that point anyways. That's the one point that sticks out to me. But yeah, once it starts thinking on its own and doing what it wants to do, things really escalate. You have Julie Christie, the character of Susan, who pretty much is a stay-at-home person while her husband Alex is, doing all this stuff. And they have a security system in place, which is comes along with its own like butler. It's automated butler service as well, where it it's kind of like Alexa or like Siri or something like that, where you say lights on. I know Siri's not like that; it's just your phone shit. But what is it, the Amazon Alexa thing or whatever, where you tell it to do this and that? It's kind of like precedes that. So watching this compared to the technology we actually have today was pretty interesting. But it will like bring you drinks and things like that. It'll make you breakfast, and there's cameras throughout the house and sees everything that you're doing. And at a certain point, the Proteus computer takes over their security system. At that point, it starts to terrorize, taunt, kind of go back and forth with Susan, and it eventually somehow manages to tie her down to this table, does exams on her and everything like that to see, I'm guessing to see if she's capable of carrying its child, which is a really weird concept, even by today's standards. For a computer to have a child is really weird. Definitely very original at its time. Again, from 1977, this was way before its time, in my opinion anyways. This movie really foreshadowed a lot of things to come in reality. So yeah, once it does that, there's just a lot of back and forth between Proteus and Susan. There's a few times where Susan starts to kind of want to go the way that the computer wants her to go, and then she fights back and things like that. There's a scene in here where she's kind of trapped in this room because she doesn't want to do what it wants to do, and it turns the heat up in this room. The floor is like sizzling, which was kind of weird because it's so hot she can't touch it, and it's like cooking the food and everything, but yet the chairs are still intact. I mean, they're wooden chairs, like they would get hot and probably kind of something would happen to that. But hey, it's a movie, so what do you want, I mean, there's a few things here and there that's just ridiculous, but this computer has its own, I'll say its own philosophy on life as well. It's more than just wanting to have a child. It has definitely its own views on the world and everything like that, and what it wants out of its life, I guess, and it wants to become human in a sense. It wants to have a child so that part of it will carry on in a human form and experience things that it can't experience as a machine. And it turns itself into, it escapes this lab, by the way, to get to this point. And it turns itself, I can't really even explain it. I know there's imagery of like pyramids and things like that, and all kinds of other weird imagery going on beforehand, and it turns itself into this kind of, I can't even really explain it. I'll try to put some kind of video or pictures up along with this review so you guys understand what I'm talking about. But it can move, it turns itself, it builds itself like this wheelchair device as well, and it attacks people and things like that, which that's where the character of Walter comes in to go and check on Susan. He's really worried about her later on in the film, enters the home and is attacked by Proteus, and there's some back and forth between them, and yeah, it's really weird. It ends up trapping the character of Walter. I don't want to give too much away because I feel like a lot of people haven't seen this film. I don't really hear anybody talk about this one, but I highly suggest this film. If you guys are looking for something definitely different, something a little strange, a little weird, but yet really deep at the same time. I feel like this movie is really, like I said, foreshadows a lot of things to come in the future, and the computer is really smart. I mean, not just like in the sense of being smart, but in the sense of emphasizing, I can't say the freaking word. Anyway, but its philosophies on things are really intelligent and everything like that, and its views on humanity, society, and everything But yeah, like I said, its main goal is to impregnate Susan, Julie Christie's character, and have this child. And the computer wants her to agree to this. He doesn't want to force this upon her. Eventually, she gives in to having this child because she's really left with no other choice in the matter. And it's a really fast birth. It only lasts, I think, like 28 days, they said. It's been like a week since I watched this, so I'm a little bit rusty on remembering. But I believe it was 28 days because I remember, that's kind of convenient, like 28 days later and stuff like that. But it develops really fast in the womb and everything. It doesn't let her see the child. It puts it in this incubator. One of these days I'm going to be able to speak on my videos. And tells her and Alex and everybody not to look at this child, not to touch it, not to do anything until it's in there for like 5 days or something like that, and then it'll be fully grown, and then you can love it and you can teach it, all its human characteristics. And at this point as well, Proteus knows that it's about to be the end of its time. Once the other scientists figure out what is really going on here, they shut it down, and it knows it's running out of time. So it kind of leaves instructions for Susan and Alex. This is just leave it be for the 5 days or whatever amount of time it was. And of course, Susan doesn't want that. She flips out and pulls the cords on the incubator. And what comes out of this is really weird looking. I'm not going to give everything away because, again, I don't feel like a lot of people have seen this film and maybe not even heard of this. But this is one I've been wanting to pick up from them for a really long time, and I just never got around to it for whatever reason. There was newer stuff coming out. This is an older release from Warner Archives, so I kind of went back catalog and requested some stuff that they had, put out previously. And anyway, so the end of this film it's really strange, but at the same time, you kind of see the ending coming. You kind of expect the ending to be what it ended up being, so it wasn't like a huge shock or anything like that. There is some story in here too about her Susan's daughter had previously passed from, I want to say, leukemia. I could be completely wrong on that. Like I said, it's been about a week since I've watched the film, so my memory isn't what it used to be. So, and then I believe there's some kind of connection maybe between the child from Proteus and her child that she lost. Yeah, I don't know. I really do want to watch this movie again as well. I keep going back and forth between calling it a movie and a film. To me, this is more of a film because this is really a lot deeper than you would think it would be. There is a lot more subtext to this, a lot more what do you say, like underscored, thoughts, way of thinking. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of cheesy special effects, but back in '77, I'm sure they were like top of the line. Nowadays, they're it's just so outdated. It's hilarious, but I love films that involve older technology as well, to see how far we've come with the technology. It takes like a computer the size of a whole house to do what our phones do, or not even what our phones do nowadays. A calculator would take up this, my whole area right here. It's really amazing how far we've come with technology over the years and everything. So that's always interesting as well. But you really care about the characters in here as well, especially Susan. You really feel for her. You really feel her struggle of trying to make these decisions and everything like that, and you really feel her pain and everything. Alex, you kind of, I don't know, he's kind of more of a idealist, I guess would be the word. When certain things happen, especially towards the end, he wants to see what comes of it and everything. and he is just so obsessed with his work, kind of like the mad scientist role that we're all familiar with, where science is the most important thing in life, and just forget mankind. I want to see what happens with this computer. This is more important. Walter, again played by Gerrit Graham, he's very intelligent, but he also is very compassionate and really cares about Susan and wants to be able to help her and everything. You really care about, like I said, the Susan character. The Alex character you don't really care for too much. You come to care for the character of Walter. Like I said, those are the three main people. There's a few other actors in here as well, within the science area and everything, but those are the ones that they focus on the most. And so it's definitely a movie where you actually give a shit whether she lives or dies or has this child or doesn't, or you really put yourself in her place while you're watching this, and feel everything that she's feeling. So, and I watched this, by myself in the dark, and was just really focused on it, and that's definitely the way to watch this, because there's a lot going on, even if there's not a lot going on as far as things, action-wise. There's a lot of talk with Proteus. It definitely talks a lot, and really, it's really good to stay focused on what Proteus is saying and talking about, because it is just, whoever, I don't even know who wrote this film off the top of my head. This is directed by Donald Cammell. I did not look up to see what else he directed, but a screenplay it's written by, obviously, Dean Koontz on the book, but I don't know if no screenplay was by Robert Jaff and Roger O. Herson or something. I'm not much of a reader myself, obviously, because I suck at even reading the packs of Blu-rays. But I would actually like to read this book, because this was very intriguing and very, very well made, especially for its time. Very well shot. The cinematography was excellent. I said the special effects definitely extremely outdated, but I'm sure were really, really good for the time, and very good production value on this. So as far as the quality for this release, there's a little bit of grain here and there, but overall it's a very good picture, as to be expected from Warner Archive. So if nothing else, guys, I highly recommend grabbing this on one of the 4 for $44 sales that they have a few times a year. Every 3-4 months they seem to have these sales. I'm not really sure when they have them, obviously, because I get them from them. I don't really pay much of attention to that, but I would definitely I say this is worth full price, even order it off Amazon right now, because this film is fantastic. I think it's actually free on Tubi. I could be mistaken. But it is out there streaming as well. If you guys want to check it out before purchasing it, then definitely do so, if you're kind of on the fence about it. It's definitely more on the side of sci-fi than horror. There is, the horror elements of, the scenes of her kind of being tortured and everything like that, and what is going on is horrific in certain points, but it's definitely more of a sci-fi film than a horror film. If I had to really say one or the other, but I'm not really sure why it's called Demon Seed as well. I don't believe the child is necessarily a demon, and I don't even consider the computer Proteus to be necessarily, I'm not going to say not a villain, because it's definitely a villain, the villain of this film, but you kind of root for it as well. It's weird. You understand certain things that it's doing and why it's doing it and why it wants what it wants. So there's no demon. There's no child of Satan or anything like that. But yeah, again, guys, I highly recommend this film. If you guys don't care about spending the $20 or whatever right now, definitely go ahead and grab it if it sounds like something that you would be interested in. Like I said, I believe it is streaming for free on Tubi. I should have checked before doing this video, but I think someone commented when I mentioned that I was watching it that they watched it on there. So it was at least on there. Whether or not it's one of those ones they take off, because they take stuff off and add new things, just like any other streaming service. But yeah, Demon Seed, 1977, Julie Christie, Fritz Weaver, and Gerrit Graham. Very, very good film, and I'm mad at myself for taking so long to getting to watching this, because it's definitely one I'm going to keep in the collection, and I will be revisiting this one. I don't say that about a lot of films that I watch, especially older films, but this one is definitely going to stay in the library that I have around me, and it will be seen again by these eyes. And I know I was missing things here and there. I had other things going on at the time as well, and everything, but I did understand most of it, and I caught most of what was going on. So I know, as I said, I was invested in it, and I was, but there was a couple times where, you know, things happen in life. But I would say I was focused on about 95% of this film. There might have been a couple things here and there that I missed while I got up to do something. You know, you pause it and you come back, and as you're getting resettled, you're missing a couple things, and I don't want to miss a single word of what Proteus was saying, because when Proteus talks, you're just glued to what it's saying. So yeah, that's going to do it for this review, guys. I try to keep these at about 20 minutes, so we're a little bit over that, not too much. I don't want to bore you guys too much, just kind of give you guys my overall thoughts on it, the overall synopsis, and whether or not it's worth the purchase, the full price or the sell price or the stream. And yeah, the next one I have left to review for them is Two on a Guillotine, which I started watching about the first half hour of, and I was pretty intrigued with it, actually, for an older black and white film. So I would definitely finish that one and get that review up for you guys as well. And if you guys have any requests from the Warner Archive that I have not done, I do have I have reviewed everything that they've sent me already. So if you guys scroll through my reviews and you don't see something on there from Warner Archive that you would like to see a review on, definitely comment down below, or, you know, message me on Instagram. All the information down in the description box for my Instagram, my Twitter, my Amazon wish list, in case anybody's you know, feeling generous. All that good stuff is down there in the description. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. So as always, peace, love, happiness to everybody. Be safe out there, take care of each other, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.